We're going to finish up our last session for the day, the evolution of e-commerce and the future of AI. So grab your drinks, some cookies maybe, and let's kick this off here. Thanks all for sticking around. We got plenty more drinks and food coming, but we're gonna take a little spin here from headless into the world of AI, as we talked about the robots taking over our jobs. Let's start with some quick little intros. My name is Marcus. I'm the partners manager at Trellis. Working with Shopify and Gorgias and all the wonderful sponsors that we have here. Ben to my left, take it away.
Hello, I'm Ben Rudnick. Been speaking at conferences for about 20 years. About 10 years ago, I made the mistake of wearing a hat. And then people kept looking for me in that hat at the next show, and it was just a gag for one show. So next thing I know, I've ended up with a brand fun hat. And then today, I've transitioned myself into being the e-commerce ninja. I thought it was a fun excuse of a costume that a mask would fit well with. But I've been playing with AI for a long time. I was doing product recommendations and customer scoring AI stuff back in the 90s, big projects for Amazon, all sorts of stuff. I got into NLP, natural language processing, 17 years ago? Is anybody here interested in NLP but hasn't even used it yet, right? So I'm a futurist. And it's funny, you were talking about the robots taking our jobs. At the beginning of 2020, I was invited to Davos to speak about a few topics, and one of them was AI and the future of work, which was very much the robots are taking our jobs.
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
So a little background about me. Thanks. Nice to meet you all.
Thanks for being here, Ben. Laura?
Hey guys, I am Laura Koerber. I am an agency partnerships manager at Gorgias, which is an e-commerce help desk. I wouldn't necessarily say we're coming for your jobs, but we are going to make you guys much more efficient when it comes to providing an exceptional customer experience. My background is actually mostly in the sports industry. I was working for a couple MLB and NHL teams, really focused on delivering a great fan experience at games. Then the pandemic happened and I ended up working at a tech company, but was able to keep that same passion for providing a great customer experience by working at Gorgias, which again is a help desk. So really excited to talk with you guys just about the future of e-commerce and how, specifically from the lens of a customer experience, how incorporating AI, automation, and machine learning is going to help unlock that next growth lever for you guys.
Cool. Thanks for being here, Laura. So let's zoom out, because everyone here is kind of all over the map from their e-commerce journey. What is AI? We've probably seen it on websites and everything, but let's start from the top of the basic definition of AI and some examples that we've probably seen on a Shopify site, for example.
Yeah, I definitely think there are different levels to it. To me, like my personal definition is just like leveraging technology, especially when it comes to speaking with your customers. So what you might see on a Shopify site could be, a chat box that automatically pops up to start a conversation with one of your customers. It could be automatically answering their questions or recommending either product recommendations or article recommendations in chat to help them answer their questions quicker. It could also be almost like a self-service and allowing customers to help themselves by allowing them to track their own orders, their own, not issue their own refunds, but requests, make requests for issuing a refund or a cancellation and so on.
Cool.
Yeah, I'd say AI, a friend of mine likes to say, everything is exactly what it isn't. And AI is not a checkbox, okay? You can't say this product recommendation and that product recommendation, they're the same because they both have AI. AI is artificial intelligence. So all of you have a job because of your intelligence. Artificial intelligence is something that can augment your capability to do what you're doing now. So it could be everything from decision support to something that's actually making those decisions for you that you don't actually have to do, right? Like try optimizing the pricing on a catalog with 1 million products and 30,000 different customer groups that have specific pricing, right? It's just impossible for a human to keep track of, especially with market volatility and actual cost increases all across the board. So that's what AI is just anything that is automatically running, right, to either help you make your decisions or to help make your decisions for you. But one thing is important is AI is not a checkbox. All AI is not equal.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. So you mentioned, the chatbot AI sort of thing is product recommendations. What are some other use cases where we could implement AI or we've probably even experienced on our own?
Look at the slide. So we put up a slide here with a few different areas where AI is used. There's actually a lot more, right? I just mentioned pricing optimization, and we didn't have enough room for that on the slide. But there's a ton of different areas where AI can impact e-commerce. And the fun thing is, it's even within one particular application, the ability to optimize and improve continues, right? The journey is never complete. And there's always somebody out there as an innovator, right? The slide before this had an interesting point on it that you guys don't have to be the innovators, right? Let Amazon and Google innovate. Let some platform company worry about the innovation. The prudent thing is to make the right selection of the AI or whatever other technologies are emerging that you're interested in. Select the right technology at the right time and make sure you use it. There's plenty of people who buy technology and never actually use it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are some great examples. So, AI to some people is sort of this buzzword, right? It's the new, well, maybe not even new anymore, but it was this new technology, and people are always installing the apps and doing the things, like you said, leveraging technology. But where's the return on it? Where can merchants really see a value in it? And maybe even reference maybe some case studies or something where you've seen successes with merchants that use it.
Well, yeah, I mean, has anybody ever heard any numbers from Amazon about just their product recommendations and how much that drives business, right? Depending on what era from 20 years ago to today that you see the numbers, it's 25 to 35% of their business is just coming from their product recommendations. In my own strategy practice, I have my own proprietary AI that I use to analyze buyer behavior and product data and find opportunities for alignment in order to improve somebody's search navigation, right? Findability optimization. And applying that, I usually see a 10 to 15% boost. Sometimes I see a 25% boost. And that's just making it easier for people to find the thing that they were actually already coming to look for.
Mm-hmm. On average order value, specifically?
That's overall revenue boost.
Wow.
So there's a boost to average order value, there's a boost to conversion rate, and those conspire to give you overall revenue boost. But also the improvement in overall experience also has a lifetime value boost. So all of these things come up, right? It's like you can improve your conversion rate, you can improve your AOV, but the lifetime value is also improving the frequency of somebody coming to your site to purchase. So, the whole thing.
Yeah, so I guess I'm seeing this dwindle down to a personalized customer experience. Can we, generalize it and say that, So you can think of it in the sense of other tools like Klaviyo, for example, in the email world, or even tools like Rebuy in the Shopify world, with upsells and cross-sells, right? So you're gathering the data to improve that customer journey and personalize it, so you're marketing it effectively, right? Yep. So in the chat world, the support chat world, how does Gorgias leverage AI? I've experienced it myself on both sides, being the partners manager, but also talking to people using Gorgias and seeing the demos of the back end of maybe the order number and the customer information populates, and that's just dynamic behavior. But tell me a little bit about Gorgias and how they're leveraging AI in the tool.
Yeah, so when it comes to many e-commerce brands, especially ones that we meet and come to Gorgias for the first time, they have a lot of the data already, and it's just a matter of putting that in the hands of your customer support team. Because what happens is a lot of that lives in silos. So your reviews data here, your loyalty data here, your order information there, and what happens is these agents are then tasked with tracking down all this different information just to help the customer, which eats up a lot of time. So what we're doing and what we're seeing is they're able to decrease their first response time and resolution time by just putting that all in one place. So with Gorgias, for example, we integrate with Shopify, we integrate with all the other Shopify apps out there so that it's just one centralized place where the agent has to go to answer your customer's question. Another place we're seeing it is just with machine learning and being able to pre-identify what customers are asking you before you even have to open your ticket with them. And just going back to some cool stats that we were talking about with conversion rates is what we're actually seeing is if you are able to get back to customers, identify those customers that are asking those questions via AI and machine learning quickly and get back to them in less than 10 minutes. Specifically, this goes for your Facebook Messenger channel, talking to customers via live chat, also talking to them over text and SMS too. If you're able to use the AI to identify, this person's asking to where you ship, do you ship to this location or do you have this in this size? Pre-sale questions, if you're able to get back to them in under 10 minutes, we're actually seeing a boost in 28% of conversion.
Wow, that's awesome. So say a merchant wants to kind of move forward with implementing more AI technology into their store. We talked about some of the implementation points, whether it's product recommendations or upsells and all the other millions of other integration points. What are some of the first steps, the tangible actions that people can take starting tomorrow, or Monday rather, not on the weekends, that they can really start to implement it and start to test and get those data-driven results to determine their next move,
Yeah, I think if we're talking very first steps, just getting all the information, like that rich customer profile in one place so that you can easily leverage that information. And then the next is just leveraging the right tools, adopting them earlier than you think you would have to. It's interesting, I talk to a lot of merchants that decide to plan their customer support strategy after they launch, but that is after they're already getting customer questions. So the second part to that is just being more proactive and thinking about what technology you will need so that you're ready, when you sell your first product, you are ready to give that customer the best experience possible.
Awesome.
Yep. I mean, there's always something that you could just go buy off the shelf and plug in. Your question was, what can I do tomorrow? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you need to start thinking about your long-term strategy. Again, look at the market, look at what trends are increasing adoption, right? One of the best ways to notice that is to see what technologies the larger platforms are starting to acquire, right? So all of the e-commerce platforms have been acquiring AI technology, mm-hmm. right? So look at what they're acquiring and what they're using it for, right? For example, Algolia just bought another search engine that was heavy focused on AI, and that makes Algolia better at being able to compete against Coveo, mm-hmm. which comes from a much richer AI background, right? So for the advice for all of you is to just keep an eye on what are the cool things that everybody's kind of buying, and then unfortunately, whatever solution goes into the platform is never going to be the cutting edge, right? And so you want to keep optimizing, you want to keep testing, you want to try out some new tool for any one of the pieces over there. Does anybody in the audience have a question about any of the topics that we have on the page?
Yeah, we are going to do some Q&A. I wanted to ask one last question and leave it up to the panel, and then we'll dive into some questions. So start thinking of your questions. Otherwise, Isaiah can just ask 5 more at the end. So you mentioned future planning, right? Not just installing things and seeing what's the hottest thing, right? But thinking about the long-term plan. And that's generally what your e-commerce strategy should be, is not just short-term. You should be thinking about long-term and iterating and looking at the data there. So where do you see this industry of AI heading, and where's it going towards compared to where it's at now?
Well, it's always going towards doing more with less, right? It's going towards making it so, like, to do a recommendation engine or customer scoring system 20 years ago, I literally was, taking tape backups of data that had in order to get like a 2-year history of customer data, right? And then train the algorithms and then get started. Now there's algorithms that are much better at dealing with the zero start problem, right? So that's the evolution, is making it so that you don't have to have training data, or coming up with ways to make it easier, right? Are there any search engine vendors here? I didn't see any. I didn't want to upset anybody. But since I already mentioned them, I'll give you an example. There's a solution called Elastic Suite, and there's a free version and a paid version. One of the neat tricks is the free version, it includes the tracking module. The cool AI stuff comes in the paid version. But if you're just using the free version, which gives you other search engine controls, you don't realize it, but you're actually gathering that tracking data in the background. And then if you try to use the paid version, you're already going because you've already got the data. So that's one of the things is identifying that zero start. Another one of the neat things that's emerging is making the AI better at discerning the nature of the relationships, not just saying you should sell this with that, but why you should sell this with that.
Yeah, great point. I feel like that's the effective nature or the non-effective nature of it. You could only, your conversion's only as good as your recommendations,
Well, yeah, I mean, everybody wants recommendations now, right? Do you guys do you like when you go to Amazon and it says you might also like this other thing, and you often buy that other thing, right? It's now become a thing that's, really driven by consumer demand. And another thing that's an interesting trend is, people who are 20 years old today, they're not so concerned about somebody, watching what they're doing, and, privacy behavior considerations are not such a concern. So that's going to have a big impact going forward, because there's reasons to be, careful with your data, right? And to value your data. And one of the things I really would like to see in, rolling the clock forward 10 years is that there's this concept of self-sovereign identity, which is like this thing related to, kind of the blockchain world of data management. And that, imagine if you had a very rich profile of your data that was gathered from all of your interactions all over the place, but you owned it. Amazon doesn't own it, all these other people don't own it. You actually own it, and you get to license the access and use of that data. And that's one of the things I was talking about at Davos, as an idea of how we could effectively let people own their own data and market their availability of their data, and that would actually drive, eventually, revenue to the people, which is kind of like a universal basic income, but you're actually earning it. Right? It's like everybody in Alaska gets paid because there's enough oil coming out of Alaska. Everybody gets a dividend, right? The same thing. Imagine if you could get a dividend from your data. That's the direction I would like to see things go, but you're not worried about that today. You're worried about what you're going to do tomorrow, and that's 10 years away.
That was going to be my question. So let's assume that, I have two questions. We'll start with the top first. I would argue that AI doesn't really exist until machine learning. Can you explain to me what the difference is between AI and machine learning? If AI is really a real thing, or is it still machine learning?
Machine learning is a subset of AI. There's a whole bunch of other things that are not machine learning that are AI, right? So machine learning is the machine learning about something, right? But AI could be as simple as a decision tree. So the machine's not actively learning. You as a person have set up this thing, or maybe the machine learning told you how to set up the thing, but it's actually the real-time algorithm that's making the decisions, and that's not machine learning. But that is AI. There's a whole bunch of other things that are in AI that go beyond machine learning.
So you do believe that AI exists?
Well, the question is, do you believe in existence?
This is getting deep.
What Albert Einstein says, reality is merely an illusion, albeit a very persistent one.
There you go. Well, I think we can open up for some more QAs. Oh, yeah. Go for it, Isaiah.
So, assuming that this continues forward and that most jobs are generally automated, what do you think the solution to that is? If you have to kind of lose to it, is it that people own their data and they make money on their own data? Because, like, what happens when, you know, most basic jobs are automated via AI?
Well, that's pretty much what I was asked to talk about in Switzerland 2 years ago. So, the question is, what happens when we pretty much don't have to do the jobs that we're doing now because AI takes our jobs, right? Well, the fun thing is you get to sit on the beach or wherever you'd like. For starters, people today, even 50 years ago, most people were living a life better than a king from 100 years ago, right? You had to be a king in order to have bananas brought over to you in a ship from the other side of the planet, right? Now you just go to the grocery store and you've got it. So for starters, people don't realize kind of how good they've got it. That's one aspect of it. And another aspect is that the Industrial Revolution, that created the freedom from us needing to be beasts of burden, right? So the human needing to do the thing physically began to dissolve away as a need with the Industrial Revolution. There you go. And then with computing, that's when we no longer needed to be beasts of mental burden, right? And it's just a matter of time for adoption and evolution of the technology. And so the future is that we all have abundance that is acceptable, right? And everybody on the planet doesn't need to work in order to justify their existence because there actually is the ability for us to produce more than enough for everybody. There's so much technology out there. I mean, like you could take a little patch of Arizona and make enough solar energy for the entire planet, right? You can take a little patch of the sea and use vertical ocean farming and you can grow enough food for everybody on the planet. And by the way, you don't have to water it because it's growing in the ocean. Right? There's no water depletion in California because too much almonds, right? Because you're growing the food in the ocean. So there's so many solutions out there, we just haven't chosen to adopt them. And so the future is there will still be jobs that require people, but there will be much fewer, and it will be an honor to have those jobs. And it will be done more out of goodwill because you're excited to have that passion and to have that pursuit. Because there's so much fewer jobs, there'll be plenty of people who have that drive to take on those jobs. Well, the problem is the global power structure doesn't want it because stability requires them to stay on the top. So there's a lot of forces against it that will remain. It's just a matter of whether or not we get to that. It's funny, we were talking about this before. Buckminster Fuller, right, who happens to be buried right down the road in Cambridge. He's the guy who patented the geodesic dome. One of his quotes is, where humanity is headed towards a utopia or oblivion, and it will be a touch and go. We don't know which direction we're going to go until the very last moment, right? And so that's it. Either we will get to that utopia, which is heavily driven by AI, or we will have some kind of society collapse apocalypse before we get there. Whether that's 10 years, 5 years, or 50 years, or 200 years, we don't know.
Yeah. I hope that answers your question, Isaiah.
I was going to add my 2 cents to that too. As amazing as like automation and AI and all that is, I truly believe it's just going to make people better at their jobs, not necessarily take their jobs. If we use the example of customer support and we're using, machine learning to help answer questions, those questions that we're using are to, people asking, where is my order? where do you ship? What is the sizing like for this item? These are things that you can and should be automating so that the person that's in the support role can then really focus on having conversations with your customers or your prospects. The fact is, 90% of customers want an immediate response, but 80% still want a personalized experience. So that really is the challenge in e-commerce when it comes to talking to your customers is how do you have that balance where you have the time to give a really personalized experience to your customers, that's where the AI and machine learning comes in to make you much more efficient and really enable you to drive more revenue from just the conversations that you're having instead of them being so transactional.
Awesome. Cool. Let's open up for some more Q&A. Any other questions? We do have a wireless mic here if anyone wants to speak up. Isaiah's probably got 6 more, so we'll give the opportunity to anyone else. If not, we could get started with our happy hour. I just want to say thanks to Laura and Ben up here. Trellis wants to thank everyone that came out here, partners, sponsors, everyone that came out. And we are going to have a little after party after the happy hour at the office. So feel free. It's literally right there across the street. So feel free to come out and hang out. We have lots of additional food and drinks and conversations to have as well. So thank you, everyone.